Hi, this is Gene Klavan, welcoming you to Voices of Vista, brought to you as a public service by this station on behalf of volunteers in service to America. Our very special guest is author and songwriter Ira Gershwin, a man who's difficult to introduce because you hardly know where to begin. Here's a partial list of some of the songs he wrote words to. Fascinating Rhythm, I'll Build a Stairway to Paradise, Lady Be Good, The Man I Love, Someone to Watch Over Me, Strike Up the Band, How Long Has This Been Going On, Liza, Bide My Time, Embraceable You, I Got Rhythm, But Not For Me, I Got Plenty of Nothing, Long Ago and Far Away, The Man That Got Away, and many, many, many more. We'll hear from Ira Gershwin as he reminisces about his life in the theater. It's been said they don't write songs like that anymore. They referring to today's songwriters. Recently at his home in California, Ira Gershwin talked about today's singers and how they don't concentrate on the verse.
Today there seems to be no necessity for the singers to do verses unless in special concerts and so forth, When they do a tribute, say, to Kurt Weill and so forth, then they give you the complete structure of the song. But it's too bad because Karen and Rodgers and Hart and Hammerstein and all of us old-timers felt that verses were very important. But they've just seemed to have gone out of style. We used to spend as much time on verses as on the refrain. I imagine that there's such a plethora, such an overwhelming amount of songs produced today that singers haven't the time to learn verses, or they keep repeating the refrain to the way in the musical comedies they used to plug a song. I must tell you, when we did Funny Face and opened in Philadelphia, one of the town's top critics saw me one afternoon in the lobby of the Schubert Theater. I was outside the theater while the rehearsal was going on. We were changing some things. And he stopped to ask me how the changes in the show were coming along. He then wondered if I had done anything about Swonderful. Swonderful, marvelous, you should care for me, and so forth. And the middle part, you've made my life so glamorous, you can't blame me for feeling amorous, oh, it's wonderful, so on, and so forth. And he said, well, what have you done about that song? I said, what about what I should have done about that song? He said, well, it contains an obscene phrase. I said, what's obscene about it? He said, you can't use the word amorous.
I guess these days amorous could be considered mild. But now Ira Gershwin recalls how he had a certain sense of communication with his brother George.
After my brother and I wrote Foggy Day, this was one of the songs we wrote, one of the few songs we wrote, but that came easily. Wrote it in the house next door, 1019 Roxbury, about 2 o'clock in the morning. And we finished the refrain. And the next day, we said, well, we'll do the verse. And I said to my brother, play me something, why don't I write a verse that has a feeling of an Irish loneliness? And he knew exactly what I meant. And George knew immediately what mood I wanted, or I thought it should have.
Let's hear more from Ira Gershwin, our guest on Voices of Vista, as he talks about the theater today and yesterday.
Things were a little simpler in those days. The shows didn't cost that much. I remember OK, which featured Gertie Lawrence and Oscar Shaw, 1926. And the show cost $100,000, and it earned its money back in 10 weeks. Well, today, I just heard that Jimmy cost $900,000. Well, it would take, even with capacity, a show like that, probably take a year and a half before it would get its money back. Things are very different today. I had a letter from P.G. Woodhouse a couple of years ago on a Christmas card. He always writes me a letter on a Christmas card. And he was talking about two shows that had flopped the week before. And he said, can you imagine one show cost $400,000, the other, I understand, cost $600,000. They only lasted a week. This is very different from the days of the Princess shows when we did a whole show for the whole cost for $25,000 or so. And he says, Ira, we are well out of it.
Today, even if a show closes in 1 week, you can be sure to hear its songs on records. But when George and Ira Gershwin were starting, there was no such thing as original cast albums. Ira Gershwin recalls the next best thing.
In the 30s, say, with my brother's great ability, not only as a composer, but as a pianist, he made very few records, and those were made in London. When I think of if he were alive today, how different things would be. With the great demand that's come up for records. Matter of fact, when he was 17 or 18 years old, he used to make pianola records. And he'd go over to Jersey to the studio, and on a Saturday afternoon, and he would get $5 a recording of a song that he might have written himself or popular songs of the day. And sometimes he'd come back and I'd be very impressed that I did 6 recordings today, and I got $25, 6 for 25.
Well, that's quite a bargain. 6 pianolas, that's piano rolls for the uninitiated, played by George Gershwin for $25. And now we can hear one of those original piano rolls played by George Gershwin back in the 30s. Ironically, it's a Jerome Kern song, Whose Baby Are You? Listening to Voices of Vista, and our thanks to our guest, Ira Gershwin, and to this station whose cooperation makes this program possible. I'm Gene Klavan. Bye.